Hey everybody, welcome back to the layout. As you can see by this rail fanning scene we've done to open the video, there's a lot to talk about. So let's hop right in. Alright, so we'll get the boring stuff out of the way here first, because I know there's an elephant in this room, and everybody's really here for that side of the video. But we got a little bit to talk about before we get there. Try to make it quick. Just stay tuned till the very end to check out the big lake scene reveal. Big thing that I did other than work on the Seneca Lake scene, this layout update, there's two things. The first was I got a little bit more fascia up from about where the Canandaigua Peninsula ends on the left end of your screen, all the way down Geneva Yard, and then into the Cayuga Causeway. So all of that now officially has fascia, and it's looking good. I think once I am calling the Seneca Lake scene quits, this Cayuga Causeway scene may end up being the next thing on the to-do list. I might just knock all that water out all at the same time. But got to do a few more things over here before that's able to happen. The little gap that's in the corner there, I've got to fill that in. I've got to do a little bit more forming with the foam just to make sure that things look good. But overall, excited for this, but got to kind of take things one step at a time because there's a lot more going on. So one of the other things that people may or may not have even realized was that 2305 here and 2201 were actually out of service for a good few months. And I had a lot of people questioning why I didn't use 2201 in the Geneva Yard job operations video, and that's because I actually fully intended to, had a sequence shot where that was going to be the last unit left in the yard. I was going to fire it up and go to work with it during the whole video. And then during that fire up sequence, I discovered that one of the ditch lights was unfortunately blown. So the Geneva Yard video happened without 2201, and I just finally had the chance to work on getting it back to operating condition in the last couple of weeks. The same thing goes for 2305. Strangely enough, both of these units I took to the Batavia RPM meet this spring, and both of them came home with blown ditch lights. Now, it's very odd. The same thing happened last year when I took my Conrail locomotives. 1989 had come home with a blown ditch light, and I thought I had whatever the root cause of that issue was figured out. I guess I didn't, though. I thought it was that I was using magnet wire LEDs and they had just, shorted somewhere. But it doesn't seem like that was the case. When I took these apart, I made sure I filed in good little channels for the wiring to kind of run through, so that there's no way it's going to kink and break now. So hopefully I've addressed the root cause of this issue so that I don't have the issue moving forward, and I can continue to bring my locomotives to RPM meets, because that's a really fun thing to do. So, and I don't want to miss out on doing so. But without further ado, let's head on over to the lake and check it out. I know you guys have been waiting, and let's hop over there. All right, so I'm starting you off in the dark over here because how stinking cool is this? That is the reflection of the lead locomotive's lights in the water. I absolutely love this, guys. I can't believe how well this has turned out. But let me go flip on the lights and we'll talk a little more. All right, so here's a view of the whole lake with the lights on in all its glory. Like I've said already, I am over the moon with how this turned out, but it was not an easy road to get here. I did the quote-unquote classical method that Boomer did a whole comprehensive video on using golden mediums, and it turned out really, really great in the end, but I had to do some significant modifications to the instructions that that video gives in order to get the results that I now have. I ran into some big issues, some big issues with air bubbles. And I don't know, it was probably my fault, let's be real here, that I was getting those air bubbles. And I'm not sure why that was. It could have been just trying to put it down too fast. Maybe my mixture was not as 50-50 as I thought it was. But ultimately, what ended up happening was I got the initial color down. That went great. I got the textured color layer down. That went great. When I went to put the final layer on with the GAC 500 and the semi-gloss soft gel mixed together, for some reason I did that twice, and twice had a ton of air bubbles in the final layer. And like I said, not sure why, but what I ended up doing was kind of taking a high grit sandpaper, knocking down as many of the air bubbles as I could, and then I still had a really good texture layer there as well as initial color, but I still had some very rough looking water because of the air bubbles. So I went over the texture layer again with another layer of my dark blue. I used a Tamiya Sea Blue for the most part. There's obviously some color variation in there, but went over that again. And what that ended up doing was leaving me the texture layer that I liked, but didn't show the air bubbles because they had all been covered over with paint. So that left me with just needing to do a gloss layer that didn't necessarily need to hold any sort of texture. I just needed it glossy. So I took a very thinned out mixture of the GAC 500 and the semi-gloss soft gel and did 2 coats of that. And that's about where we are now, is right after those 2 coats. And I'm like I said, I'm not sure why I had the air bubbles, but it kind of worked out for the best. I now have some great texture. The final layer I put on, I didn't need to worry about air bubbles because I had thinned it out so much, and all's well that ends well. We've got a great looking lake scene here. As far as specifics for sub scenes within the scene, you'll look right down here in the foreground, and this is a place that's called Jennings Beach, which is just south of the city of Geneva. This is going to be a fun location. It's kind of a secluded little gravel beach that seems like is privately owned. I'm not entirely sure. There's like a Facebook page for it, but it's definitely not like a municipal beach, it seems like. So it's a pretty interesting little area. There's a lot of Google photos of the area, so pretty interesting. The whole area here is going to end up being kind of treed in, and then my row house scene will start right on the other side of the trees, so it'll kind of be like a kind of a division of the scenes here. I'm trying to do as much as I can in the foreground here because in actuality my electrical box is just off camera to the right hand side, and just for safety's sake I really am trying to do as minimal scenery behind track level back there as I can, just so that I can get in and out of my breaker box as easy as I can. The whole Seneca Lake scene is actually a removable module in case I need to be able to take that out to have electrical work done, which is why if you take a closer look whenever you're here, there's actually a seam right down the middle of Seneca Lake. It's a sacrifice that unfortunately, in order to keep my house at quote-unquote code, I have to be willing to make there. But if there's ever a need for electrical work to be done, I should be able to pop this whole little module out and have the 3 feet on either side of the panel for an electrician to work on it. So here is a closer look at what will end up being the south end of the scene. This will be, it's all the west side of Seneca Lake, but for me it's the southernmost end of the scene as far as what I'm modeling. And here is where I'm going to be putting in Roy's Marina, which is a marina with a bunch of docks and stuff just yeah, probably 5 to 10 miles south of Geneva itself. It's a pretty cool scene. There's a big blue kind of pike stuff looking structure that's got Roy's painted on the roof of the building, and then going out into the water there's probably 7 to 8 different docks, really long docks for storing boats and everything. In the fall there's a lot of boats lined up in shrink wrap on shore because they store them there for the winter. Overall, really cool scene, and modeling late fall, I should be able to get a little bit creative with the scene itself. But coming out of Roy's, there's going to be a road coming up next to the right of way, and then that'll turn into the road that is just east of Himrod Yard, or excuse me, just west of Himrod Yard on the prototype. Yeah, it'll turn into that road and then run all the way down to the end of that little peninsula, so that I've got a nice little roadway, model some traffic, and kind of create a pretty interesting looking scene that way. That's about it for this one, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really hope that all of you are as impressed with this water technique as I am. As I said, long road to get here, but I'm super happy we're here, and there's still way more work to come here on the Seneca Lake scene. So keep tuning in, get subscribed if you're not already, and leave a comment and a like down below, and let me know what you think. Take care, everybody.